Seaman recruit Rachel Thompson thrashed in the cold Pacific waters off Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, her arms windmilling desperately as she struggled to stay afloat during the basic swimming qualification. The instructor's whistle pierced the morning air as she went under for the third time in less than 2 minutes, salt water burning her throat as she fought her way back to the surface. Which city are you watching from? Share it in the comments. Maybe someone else from your city is here too. And if you believe heroes can appear in the most unexpected ways, hit subscribe and give this video a like. Thompson, what the hell was that? Chief Petty Officer Martinez shouted from the pool deck, his voice echoing across the training facility. My grandmother swims better than you and she's been dead for 15 years. The other recruits treading water nearby tried to suppress their laughter as Rachel clung to the pool edge, gasping and coughing up chlorinated water. This was her fourth failed swimming test in 6 weeks of Navy basic training. At this rate, she'd be administratively separated from the service before she ever saw a ship. For someone who had enlisted specifically to serve in the Navy, her apparent terror of deep water was becoming a serious problem. Thompson, get out of my pool, Chief Martinez ordered, his patience clearly exhausted. Report to the medical officer for evaluation. I'm recommending you for reassignment to a land-based MAS. Rachel hauled herself out of the water, her regulation Navy PT uniform clinging to her shaking frame. Around the pool deck, her fellow recruits exchanged glances that mixed pity with relief that it wasn't them facing elimination. She'd become the company's cautionary tale, the recruit who somehow made it through MEPS despite an obvious disqualifying condition. What none of them knew was that Rachel's fear of swimming wasn't real. Neither was her name, her background, or her reason for being at basic training. Her real identity was so classified that only 3 people in the entire Navy chain of command knew she was there. Rachel Thompson was actually Petty Officer First Class Sarah Phantom Rodriguez, a member of Naval's Special Warfare Development Group, better known as SEAL Team 6 or DEV-GRU. She had completed over 40 classified maritime operations across 3 combat deployments, including several that required swimming for miles in hostile waters while carrying full combat gear. But 8 months ago, Sarah had been declared killed in action during a classified mission in the South China Sea. Her team had been compromised while conducting surveillance on a Chinese military installation, and she had been forced to remain underwater for over 6 hours while enemy patrol boats searched for survivors. The official records showed her as missing and presumed dead, her body never recovered. In reality, Sarah had been extracted by a submarine and spent 3 months in a classified medical facility recovering from severe decompression injuries and hypothermia. When she was finally cleared for duty, Naval Intelligence had offered her a choice: retirement with full benefits and a new identity, or return to active duty under deep cover to investigate suspected security breaches within the SEAL community. She had chosen the mission. For the past 2 months, Sarah had been playing the role of a struggling recruit, while secretly documenting evidence of classified information being leaked from Navy Special Warfare training facilities. Someone with access to SEAL team operational schedules and training protocols was selling intelligence to foreign services, and her job was to identify the source. The irony wasn't lost on her. She was one of the Navy's most elite maritime operators, pretending to be afraid of water while investigating threats to the very community she had served with distinction. Every failed swimming test, every moment of manufactured panic in the water was part of an elaborate performance designed to make her invisible to the real criminals. But maintaining this cover was taking its toll. Sarah had spent years as part of an elite team where competence and professionalism were everything. Now she had to watch junior sailors whisper about her failures, while she documented evidence against people who were betraying everything she had sworn to protect. The medical evaluation that Chief Martinez had ordered was actually perfect cover for her next intelligence gathering opportunity. The base medical facility processed clearance renewals for SEAL team members, and Sarah suspected that someone in the administrative staff was accessing classified medical records that contained operational deployment information. As she walked across the base toward the medical building, still dripping from her latest failure, Sarah mentally reviewed the suspects she had identified. Petty Officer Second Class Williams, a medical administrator who had been asking unusual questions about SEAL team deployment schedules. Hospital Corpsman Jenkins, who had been observed taking photographs of classified medical files. and Chief Medical Officer Lieutenant Commander Hayes, who had been staying late and accessing computer systems outside his normal duties. The medical facility was busy with the usual mixture of routine appointments and training injuries. Sarah reported to the desk, maintaining her nervous, defeated demeanor as she explained why Chief Martinez had sent her for evaluation. "Another swimming failure, huh?" the receptionist said with barely concealed amusement. "Dr. Hayes will see you in examination room 3. Sarah's pulse quickened slightly. Lieutenant Commander Hayes was one of her primary suspects, and this unexpected face-to-face meeting could provide crucial intelligence. She maintained her anxious recruit persona as she was led to the examination room, but her mind was already cataloging every detail of the facility's security procedures and computer access points. Dr. Hayes entered the room carrying a tablet computer and wearing the confident expression of someone accustomed to dealing with nervous recruits. He was in his early 40s, with graying hair and the kind of casual authority that came from years of military medicine. "Seaman Recruit Thompson," he said, reviewing her fabricated medical file. "Chief Martinez reports that you're having significant difficulties with water confidence training. Tell me about your swimming background." Sarah delivered the cover story she had memorized, describing a fictional childhood fear of water that had somehow been overlooked during her enlistment processing. As she spoke, she watched Hayes's reaction carefully, looking for any signs that he suspected her true identity. But what she saw instead made her blood run cold. On his tablet screen, partially hidden by the medical interface, she could see what appeared to be a SEAL team deployment schedule. Not just any schedule, but operational planning documents that were classified at levels far above a base medical officer's clearance. And as he moved the tablet, she caught a glimpse of Chinese text in one of the document margins. Hayes was translating classified SEAL team intelligence for foreign handlers. "Seaman Thompson, I'm going to recommend you for a medical discharge," Hayes was saying, apparently unaware that his security breach had been detected. "Your water phobia represents a significant safety risk in a maritime service." Sarah nodded, maintaining her nervous recruit act, while her mind raced through the implications. Hayes wasn't just accessing classified information, he was actively translating it for Chinese intelligence services. And if he was recommending her for discharge, it meant her cover identity was about to be terminated, potentially ending her investigation before she could gather enough evidence for prosecution. She needed to extend her time on base without raising suspicion, which meant she had to fail at something else to delay the discharge process. But before she could respond, the building's emergency alert system began blaring. "All personnel, this is not a drill. We have a maritime emergency off the coast. All available medical personnel report to emergency stations immediately." Through the examination room window, Sarah could see Navy helicopters lifting off from the airfield and Coast Guard vessels racing toward the horizon. Hayes quickly closed his tablet and grabbed his emergency medical kit. "Thompson, report back to your unit. This examination will have to be completed later." But as Hayes moved toward the door, he made a critical mistake. In his haste to respond to the emergency, he left his tablet computer on the examination table, the screen still unlocked and displaying classified SEAL team documents with Chinese translations clearly visible. Sarah was alone in the room with direct evidence of espionage against the United States military. Her cover identity demanded that she simply leave and report back to her unit as ordered. But her real identity as a SEAL Team 6 operator demanded that she secure this evidence and protect her brothers in arms from further compromise. The emergency alerts were getting more urgent. Through the radio chatter echoing in the hallways, she could hear fragments of the situation. A training exercise had gone wrong somewhere off the coast. Multiple personnel in the water. Helicopter down, casualties unknown. Sarah made her decision. She photographed the tablet screen with a concealed camera, documenting the classified information in Chinese translations. Then she secured the tablet in evidence-locked position and prepared to pursue Hayes. But as she moved toward the door, she heard voices approaching in the hallway. "Dr. Hayes forgot his tablet," someone was saying. "I'll take it to him at the emergency station." Sarah had seconds to make a choice. She could maintain her cover and let the evidence disappear, potentially allowing Hayes to continue compromising SEAL team operations. Or she could blow her cover to secure a traitor and protect national security. The voices were getting closer. Through the window, she could see the emergency response building as more helicopters launched toward the Maritime incident. And somewhere out there in the Pacific, Navy personnel were in real danger while a traitor in their own medical facility sold their operational secrets to foreign intelligence. Sarah stripped off her wet PT shirt and used it to wrap the tablet, securing it against water damage. Then she opened the examination room window and climbed out onto the exterior ledge of the medical building. The emergency response area was in chaos, with medical personnel rushing to prepare for incoming casualties. Sarah moved across the exterior of the building using urban climbing techniques she had mastered during counterterrorism training, staying out of sight while positioning herself to observe Hayes's activities. From her vantage point on the building's exterior, she could see Hayes at the emergency command post, communicating with someone on his personal cell phone while the medical team prepared for casualties. He was speaking in what sounded like Mandarin Chinese, clearly reporting on the current emergency situation to foreign handlers. But then the situation got worse. Through her earpiece, which had been disguised as a hearing aid throughout her cover assignment, Sarah heard maritime rescue radio traffic that made her blood freeze. The helicopter that had gone down was carrying a SEAL team, returning from a classified training exercise. There were survivors in the water, but rescue efforts were being hampered by equipment failures and deteriorating weather conditions. Her SEAL teammates were dying in the Pacific, while a traitor in the medical facility provided real-time intelligence to Chinese agents. Sarah's cover identity demanded that she remain hidden and continue gathering evidence. But her loyalty to the SEAL teams demanded immediate action. Regardless of the consequences to her mission, she made her choice. Sarah dropped from the building exterior and landed in the emergency staging area, her sudden appearance causing several medical personnel to stop and stare. She was still dripping from her failed swimming test, still wearing her wet Navy PT uniform, and still supposed to be a terrified recruit who couldn't handle deep water. "Dr. Hayes," she called out, her voice carrying a new tone of authority that made him turn around in surprise. "Thompson? What are you doing here? You were ordered to return to your unit." Sarah walked directly toward him, her posture and movement suddenly displaying the confidence and precision of someone with years of elite military training. "Dr. Hayes, you're under arrest for espionage against the United States military." Hayes laughed, genuinely confused. "Thompson, you're having some kind of breakdown. You're a recruit who can't even swim. Security." But Sarah was already moving. In one fluid motion, she disarmed the security guard, who responded to Hayes's call, secured his weapon, and had Hayes in a compliance hold before anyone could react. Her movements were so fast and professional that the entire emergency station fell silent. "My name is Petty Officer First Class Sarah Rodriguez, Naval Special Warfare Development Group," she announced to the assembled medical personnel. "Dr. Hayes is a Chinese intelligence asset who has been compromising SEAL team operational security. I have documented evidence of his espionage activities." Hayes struggled against her hold. "This is insane. She's a recruit. She's been failing swimming tests for weeks." Sarah smiled grimly. "The swimming failures were part of my cover identity while investigating security breaches in this facility. As for my swimming abilities..." She released Hayes into the custody of the arriving security personnel, then walked to the edge of the harbor where rescue boats were preparing to launch toward the helicopter crash site. Without hesitation, she dove into the Pacific Ocean and began swimming toward the emergency zone with powerful, professional strokes that covered distance faster than most rescue vessels. The assembled medical personnel watched in shock as the recruit who had been afraid of pool water disappeared into the open ocean like she was born for it. 45 minutes later, Sarah surfaced near the crash site carrying an unconscious SEAL team member toward the rescue boats. She had swum over 3 miles in full clothing through rough seas to reach survivors who were beyond the range of the rescue helicopters. Over the next 2 hours, she made 4 more trips, saving the lives of 5 SEAL team members who would have died before conventional rescue could reach them. When the Coast Guard finally pulled Sarah aboard their rescue vessel, she was exhausted but uninjured. The SEAL team members she had saved were receiving medical attention, and the emergency was under control. Captain Morrison, the base commanding officer, was waiting when the rescue boats returned to shore. He helped Sarah onto the pier, where she stood dripping in her torn PT uniform, while Naval Security took Dr. Hayes into custody. Petty Officer Rodriguez, Captain Morrison said, I think you and I need to have a very classified conversation about why a SEAL Team 6 operator has been pretending to be a failing recruit for the past 2 months. Sarah nodded, finally able to drop the nervous recruit persona she had maintained for weeks. Sir, Operation Silent Current was authorized at the highest levels of naval intelligence. Dr. Hayes has been providing SEAL Team operational intelligence to Chinese agents for at least 6 months. And the swimming failures? Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Sir, the best way to hide a fish is to convince everyone it can't swim. 3 days later, Sarah sat in a classified briefing room at Naval Special Warfare Command headquarters, back in her Div GRU uniform, with the ribbons and decorations that marked her as one of the Navy's most elite operators. Across from her, Admiral Thompson reviewed the intelligence she had gathered during her undercover assignment. Petty Officer Rodriguez, your investigation has uncovered not just Dr. Hayes, but an entire network of compromised personnel providing intelligence to Chinese services. The information they obtained could have compromised SEAL Team operations across the Pacific Theater. Sarah nodded. Sir, the hardest part wasn't maintaining my cover or pretending to fail swimming tests. It was watching my teammates treat me like I was incompetent, while I documented evidence against people who were betraying everything we fight for. And now we roll up the entire network. Hayes was keeping detailed records of his contacts and payment schedules. We've identified Chinese intelligence assets at 3 other Navy facilities, all using medical or administrative access to obtain classified information. Admiral Thompson closed the file. Petty Officer Rodriguez, what you accomplished over the past 2 months goes beyond exceptional. You not only exposed a major intelligence breach, but you saved 5 SEAL Team members during a maritime emergency while maintaining your cover identity. Sarah stood, adjusting her uniform. Sir, that's what SEAL Team members do. We adapt, we overcome, and we never leave anyone behind, whether we're carrying weapons or pretending to be afraid of swimming pools. As she left the briefing room, Sarah passed the pool, where she had spent weeks pretending to fail swimming tests. A new class of recruits was conducting water confidence training, and she could hear an instructor encouraging a struggling swimmer. Don't give up, the instructor was saying. The water is just another environment to master. Fear is the only thing that can defeat you. Sarah smiled, remembering her own real SEAL training years earlier. The instructor was right. Fear was the enemy, but sometimes the best way to defeat fear was to hide behind it. Outside the facility, the Pacific Ocean stretched toward the horizon where Sarah had swum 3 miles through rough seas to save her teammates. The emergency was over, the threats neutralized, and national security preserved. But for Sarah, this was just another successful mission in her service to the SEAL teams and the country she had sworn to protect. Tomorrow there would be another assignment, another cover identity, and another chance to protect the warriors who operated in the shadows. The only difference was that next time, she hoped her cover story didn't involve pretending to be afraid of the one element where she felt most at home. As she walked toward the Classified Operations Center for her next briefing, Sarah reflected on the past 2 months of playing a struggling recruit. Being underestimated had been her greatest weapon. While everyone was focused on her apparent weaknesses, she had been documenting the real threats to American naval operations. The mission was complete. Hayes was in custody. His spy network was being dismantled, and the intelligence leaks that had threatened SEAL Team operations were finally stopped. For Petty Officer First Class Sarah Phantom Rodriguez, SEAL Team 6, it was just another day of being the hero hidden in plain sight.